So you want your app to look and feel premium, like an Apple app, but you're not a designer, and if AI built your app, let's be honest, it probably doesn't look all that great. Well, lucky for you, Apple literally gives you the blueprint on how to design premium apps, and it's called the Human Interface Guidelines. And in this video, I'll show you some examples of just how useful it can be and how to turn your mediocre looking app into a beautiful one that looks like it belongs on an Apple device. Apple's Human Interface Guidelines is a website that breaks down almost every possible aspect of designing a great app for Apple platforms. But design isn't just about looking pretty or the aesthetics. Design is how the app is used. How does it feel? Does the design make sense? Is it intuitive? For example, does navigation feel right or does it feel clunky? Are the toolbars laid out in a manner that makes sense? Are you properly using color? So many beginner developers just focus on what it looks like, and design is so much more than that. And the Human Interface Guidelines, or the HIG for short, dives into all of this. And the goal of this video is to let you know what it is, let you know that it exists, and show you how to use it. We'll start with a big picture overview so you can get an idea for the kind of stuff that is in here, and then we'll dive into a couple sections so you can see what this is all about. Here on the left is a directory or table of contents, and it's how you quickly navigate to a specific area, which is how you're going to use the HIG most of the time. Like I said, you're not going to read the whole thing start to finish. You're going to go to a very specific area to get what you need. Here at the top, it gives you basic principles per platform because these are very different form factors. As you know, the way you would use an app on a Mac is very different than the way you would use an app on a phone, and very different than the way you'd use an app on a Vision Pro. And the design of the app should reflect that. Foundations includes guidance on app icons, typography, color. Patterns covers things like charts, drag and drop, haptics. And there are more sections that dive deep into the components that come with the SDK, the various input mechanisms like the Apple Pencil, and other specific Apple technologies like CarPlay, HealthKit, Maps. So now you're getting the idea, a huge resource. Again, don't memorize it, treat it like a reference, and here in this directory, you can go exactly where you need to go. For example, let's say you're working on an app that uses maps, and you want to make sure you're using maps correctly. So you're definitely going to need to review the section on maps. As an example, there's guidance on choosing the right map style for your app. And as I'm scrolling the map section, you'll also notice that the HIG is very visual. There's a lot of screenshots and examples, which I love. I'm a very visual person. And as we get to the section on the proper way to use place cards in maps, here's an example of an interactive visual that goes along with the text on how to use them. So you can play around with and experience what a full callout looks like, compact, caption, or a full sheet. And I'll keep scrolling a bit to show you that there's a lot more here, and that's just working on maps. For the next quick example, let's say you're building a Mac app and you want to utilize drag and drop. So first, I would check out the Designing for macOS section. If you remember, the HIG gives you platform-specific things to consider. For a Mac, that's things like leveraging the large display. So you would use less nested content and show multiple windows in your app. When you compare that with how you use a phone, you only have limited screen space on a phone, so a lot of times your content is nested. You have to navigate through different screens to get to it, but when you have a big Mac screen, you don't need to do all that. You should also let people resize your app as needed, so they can organize their desktop how they like. And a big difference is a Mac app has high precision input, like a mouse pointer. And this affects the size of your buttons, text fields, etc. Because the reason the buttons and text fields are so chunky on an iPhone or an iPad is because we're using our fingers. But on the Mac, that's not the case, so you need to consider that when designing your controls. So that was an example of getting platform-specific design principles. Now let's go into the drag and drop section because there's a whole lot of detail on drag and drop, but really what I want to show you is that even within these detailed subsections, they also have platform-specific advice in there. So here we are in the drag and drop section, and I'm going to scroll through this pretty quickly because, to be honest, right now, the details of drag and drop don't matter. You can take a look as I'm scrolling so you can get an idea for some of the best practices for drag and drop, but really I want to get to the macOS section. And here we are, platform considerations. Let's look at macOS. For drag and drop, you should consider letting people drag content from your app into the Finder, and then the HIG gives you more information on that. You should let people drag selected content from an inactive window without making the window active. So that's an example of the Human Interface Guidelines going deep on a topic like drag and drop, but then even deeper with the macOS specific best practices for drag and drop. All right, I'm going to quickly highlight two more sections to give you more of a feel for the HIG. And the first is accessibility, because this is an area a lot of developers really need to improve on. And oftentimes it gets overlooked, which is a shame. In the accessibility section, you'll learn things like supporting dynamic type, because as you know, many users like to adjust the text size on their phone, and your app and your UI needs to adjust to that. You'll also learn color contrast in both light and dark mode, and how you should not rely just on color to convey information because some people have trouble differentiating between colors and shades, so adding an icon or a shape with your color helps. And how you should use haptics in addition to audio cues, because some people are hard of hearing, so if you have things like chimes, air sounds, or game feedback, you should add haptics to those as well. And you should really be improving the accessibility of your app. So if you're not familiar with this topic, or you've never built that into your app, the Human Interface Guidelines accessibility section is a great place to start. And now let me show you widgets, because I think widgets are awesome. And I really like this section because even though they seem like a small piece of UI, there's actually a lot to them. So here you can learn about the various widget family sizes and where they are supported, lock screen widgets, tint modes, standby mode, making your widget interactive, and other best practices. So hopefully by now you understand just how valuable the Human Interface Guidelines are. And if you're trying to build the best app you possibly can for Apple platforms, you have to check it out. The link is in the description. And if you're here watching this video, you're probably building an app for Apple platforms, so you should check out Bitrig. It's an AI development environment that is specifically focused on building these premium Swift apps for Apple platforms. It was actually built by the co-creators of SwiftUI that were formerly at Apple, so it integrates amazingly well with the first-party Apple frameworks and specializes in Swift and SwiftUI. And because Bitrig specializes in this native Swift app development for Apple platforms, its familiarity with these Human Interface Guidelines is built right in. It can also create and manage your App Store Connect listing, set up your in-app purchases or subscriptions, and even submit to the App Store for you. The team ships updates on a weekly basis, so the product is constantly getting better and better and better. Check it out at bitrig.com.